You will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has presided over a ceremony to award the National Military Sports Elite, who snatched 96 medals of the participation in the African Military Games in Abuja, Nigeria. Foreign Affairs Minister Ahmed Attaf today presided over the opening ceremony of the Namibian embassy here in Algiers, in which he hailed the strong ties linking the two countries. The UN General Assembly has adopted a resolution calling on once again the Israeli occupation to withdraw from the Syrian Golan Heights, occupied since 1967. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, presided over today at the People's Palace of Algiers a ceremony of awarding prizes to the National Military Sports Elite who participated in the African Military Games in Abuja, Nigeria. The ceremony was held in the presence of the Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, General Said Shingriha, who congratulated the athletes for the results obtained during the competition, results that allowed Algeria to rank second.
Our military delegation, made up of 118 athletes, 108 men and 10 women, as well as 10 coaches, has achieved a considerable success with 96 medals, 53 gold, 22 silver and 21 bronze in 10 sports disciplines out of the total of 22 that have marked this competition, in which 22 countries participated. These exceptional and unprecedented results have allowed our country to rank second in the overall ranking behind the host country.
That was the Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, General Said Shingriha. As you followed in our top stories, the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, today presided over a ceremony of inauguration of the Namibian embassy here in Algiers, in the presence of the Namibian Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Honorable Pea Mushlenga. After welcoming the Namibian Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, the Namibian ambassador to Algiers and the officials attending the ceremony, Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf hailed the strong ties linking Algeria and Namibia.
Indeed, Namibia means so much to Algeria. And I'm sure that Algeria means also so much to Namibia. Our relations are deeply rooted in the glorious history of our two nations. We take special pride in having hosted here in Algiers, back in 1963, one of the first SWAPO offices abroad. We equally take special pride in the multifaceted support that was provided by Algeria to Namibia's struggle for independence. And we also take special pride in the fact that diplomatic relations between our two countries were established on the 21st of March 1990, meaning on the very same day of the proclamation of Namibia's independence. Based on this historic legacy that we both cherish and we both hold dear to our hearts, Namibia and Algeria have always maintained solid bonds both at the bilateral and multilateral levels. We have always been together in support of the rightful and legitimate causes of justice and freedom, notably in Western Sahara and in Palestine.
The Namibian minister, for his part, made the following statement.
Our two countries established diplomatic relations on the 21st of March 1990. However, Algeria has been standing together with Namibia from the 1960s. Algeria has remained committed to the struggle for liberation of Namibia. We still remember the historic gift of weapons to the then SWAPO president, His Excellency Sam Shafishuna Nuoma, in 1963 by President Ben Bella. It was those weapons that were used to the very first battle of the Southwest Africa Liberation Army, SWALA, later People's Liberation Army of Namibia, planned at Omugolo Wambasha in 1966. Africa and all progressive nations worldwide can only be proud of this nation, for Algeria has consistently given support and cooperation since independence, not only to Namibia, but to many other countries on our continent. Algeria and Namibia are further committed to self-determination and national independence for people under colonial bondage. In Africa, to the valiant and heroic people of Western Sahara, and in the Middle East, to the courageous people of Palestine who have suffered genocide in recent years.
That was the Namibian Minister of International Relations and Cooperation speaking. The Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has had a telephone conversation with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates of the Syrian Arab Republic, Bassam Sabah. The call allowed the Minister of State to be informed of the latest developments in the situation in northern Syria and to reiterate Algeria's firm position and its absolute solidarity with the brotherly Syrian Arab Republic, state and people in the face of the terrorist threats that threaten its sovereignty, unity, territorial integrity, security and stability. For his part, the Syrian minister expressed his deep thanks and appreciation to Algeria for its solidarity and support for the request made by the Syrian authorities to convene an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, as well as the inclusion of an item on the latest developments in Syria during the next emergency meeting of the Arab League Council at ministerial levels. The United Nations General Assembly has adopted a resolution calling on once again on the Zionist entity to withdraw from the Syrian Golan Heights, which it has occupied since 1967. More details with Majid Miller.
According to United Nations sources, 97 members of the United Nations General Assembly voted in favor of the resolution. During the vote on Tuesday, announced the United Nations information website in a message posted on social networks. The resolution states that the members of the United Nations are deeply concerned by the continual occupation of the Syrian Golan since 1967 by the Zionist entity, which constitutes a violation of the relevant resolutions of the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations General Assembly, said the same source. The resolution also states that the settlement and construction activities carried out by the Zionist entity on the Syrian Golan Heights are illegal and that they continue to violate Security Council Resolution 497 adopted in 1981. Last month, the United Nations called on the Zionist entity to comply with resolutions relating to the occupied Syrian Golan, notably Resolution 497 of 1981, which states that the imposition by the Zionist entity of its laws, jurisdiction and administration over the occupied Syrian Golan is null and void and has no international legal effect. This 18th appeal was launched, it is recalled, at the time of the adoption last November by the Special Political and Decolonization Committee, Fourth Committee of the General Assembly, of the resolution entitled The Occupied Syrian Golan, which was supported by an overwhelming majority represented by 152 countries voting in favor of the resolution.
Speaking of the UN Security Council, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Algeria, Nassim Gawawi, said that a political solution is the only viable solution to the prevailing crisis in Syria.
It's clear to all that there is no military solution to the Syrian crisis. The only viable path forward is a political solution that preserves Syria's unity, sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. In this regard, The E3 Plus reaffirmed their firm belief that inclusive dialogue among Syrians, supported by the international community, remains the only sustainable and just pathway to resolving this protracted crisis. We reiterate our support for the effort of the Special Envoy and urge all parties to engage constructively with his initiatives to break the current deadlock. The E3 Plus also underscored the importance of recovering the Constitutional Committee and revitalizing the Syrian-owned and Syrian-led political process in line with Resolution 2254.
That was the Deputy Permanent Representative of Algeria, Nassim Gawawi. Now, the Secretary of State to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of the national community abroad, Sofiane Shaib, has held a meeting in Cairo, Egypt, with members of the national community settled in Egypt, a sister country. A communique issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs indicated that the encounter is part of the ongoing follow-up of the implementation of the conclusions of the meeting between the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, and members of the national community during his visit to Egypt in January 2022. At the end of the meeting, Sofiane Shaib made a point of addressing our nationals in Gaza, affirming that the Algerian state is sparing no effort to take the necessary measures towards the members of the national community abroad with a view to evacuating them wherever they are or wherever they may be, recalling Algeria's efforts to evacuate our nationals from the Gaza Strip and those who have been able to get out of Sudan, Niger, and more recently, Lebanon. The Minister of Internal Trade and Regulation of the Domestic Market, Tayyib Zitouni, has highlighted in New Delhi, India, the facilitations available to Indian companies wishing to invest in Algeria during talks with the President of the Confederation of Indian Industry, Sanjeev Puri, on the sidelines of his participation in the 29th Partnership Summit in the Indian capital. Said Bougazi has more.
During the meeting, which took place in the presence of Algeria's ambassador to India, Ali Ashwi, Tayyib Zitouni stressed the importance of cooperation between the two countries in priority areas and the exchange of expertise to strengthen economic relations in the service of their common interests, assuring that Algeria was ready to grant all facilitations to companies wishing to invest in Algeria. After thanking the Minister for Algeria's participation in this important international summit, Sanjeev Puri praised Algeria's efforts to strengthen its economic relations with its international partners, adding that the Confederation of the Indian Industry was looking for promising investment opportunities, notably in the heavy industry, agriculture, and technology. On the sidelines of the summit, Tayyib Zitouni also had a meeting with the Director General of the Federation of Indian Commerce and Industry, Jyoti Vij, at the latter's request. The two sides discussed ways and means of developing economic partnerships between Algeria and India after members of the Federation who accompanied the Indian President on her visit to Algeria last October were informed of the investment opportunities offered by the country. During the meeting, the two parties agreed to intensify visits by businessmen between the two countries and to organize joint economic events to support bilateral investment.
The Minister of State in charge of energy, mines and renewable energies, Mohammed Arqab, has inaugurated the new headquarters of the National Data Center of the Atomic Energy Commission in the presence of the Commissioner for Atomic Energy, Abdelhamid Milla, and the Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, Robert Floyd. In a speech delivered on this occasion, Mohammed Arqab underlined that this center, created in 2003, was part of Algeria's commitments under the treaty, the Atomic Energy Commissioner being the main technical contact point with the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty Organization, the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, regarding the activities of this center. To the Western Sahara file, the Association for the Protection of Sahrawi Prisoners has confirmed in its 2023 report the continuation of gross violations of human rights in Western Sahara with the escalation of repression and arbitrary arrests by the Moroccan occupation authorities against Sahrawis who are fighting for freedom and justice. The details with Said Bougazi.
Through this annual report, the Association for the Protection of Sahrawi Prisoners documented that the Moroccan authorities continue to deny the right of Sahrawi citizens and activists to a fair trial and instead drag them into extrajudicial persecutions through the use of fabricated reports that are signed under duress and torture and in complete violation of the guarantees stipulated in procedural laws. The League underlined that the events and facts addressed in the report cannot be isolated from the legal and political situation of the Western Sahara territory, as all the violations witnessed by the territory since 1965 until today are mainly related to Morocco's alteration of the borders inherited from colonialism, its occupation of the territory, and its denial of the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. During 2023, the association recorded several trials of Sahrawi political detainees, the most important of which was the Sahrawi human rights defender, head of the Sahrawi Observatory for Documentation of Human Rights Violations, and member of the Association for the Protection of Sahrawi Prisoners, Jamal Akridish, who was released by the Court of Appeal in the city of Gelmim after a series of postponements for nearly 6 months from the date of arrest, after his file was discussed, which denied all charges against him, and the defense team refuted the reports made by the judiciary for lack of any evidence. Regarding the health situation and the right to treatment, the report underlines that the Moroccan occupation continues to systematically torture Sahrawi prisoners and deny them medical care, contact with their families, and the most basic rights guaranteed by international laws and conventions. Among the most prominent examples of this brutal repression are the situation of Sahrawi civilian prisoners of the Gdaymizi group, Sidi Abdullah Ahmed Sidi Abah, Ibrahim Didi Ismaili, Hussein Ibrahim, the honorary president of the League, Ahmed Bashir Ahmed Sabai, and Muhammad Ahnani Rohabani. The report adds that the Moroccan occupation continues to repress any Sahrawi voice demanding freedom.
The United Nations General Assembly has adopted 2 resolutions on the occupied Palestine. The Wafa news agency reported the first resolution for the settlement of the Palestinian question by peaceful means, was adopted by 157 votes in favour, 8 voted against and 7 abstained. The second resolution concerning the Office for Palestinian Rights at the General Secretariat was approved by 101 countries, 27 countries voted against and 42 abstained. On Tuesday, the General Assembly held a session to discuss the situation in Palestine. In his speech, the General Assembly President Philemon Yan said that peace and security in the Middle East cannot be achieved by force or occupation, but only through dialogue, mutual recognition, and commitment to a just, comprehensive, and lasting solution based on international law. The Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine, Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, Filippo Lazzarini, has said that the genocidal war against the Gaza Strip has led to a series of new cases of people with disabilities among Palestinians with the absence of rehabilitation services. In a statement relayed by the Palestinian press agency Wafa, Filippo Lazzarini said that new cases of disability had spread in the Gaza Strip as a result of the Zionist aggression against Palestinians since October 2023. At a UN meeting, the representative of Algeria to the UN said that Algeria has donated this year $15 million to support UNRWA.
The situation in Gaza is indeed catastrophic, with over 44,466 Palestinians reportedly killed, mostly women and children, and more than 2 million people forced from their homes. The health system is on the brink of collapse, and widespread famine looms, with over 500,000 people facing catastrophic levels of hunger. In light of these challenging circumstances, my delegation fully supports the proposed appropriation of an additional $4.981 million to support UNRWA in performing its duties. In this context, Algeria donated this year $15 million to UNRWA and urges other donators to scale up their support for this agency to fulfill its mandate.
Doctors and representatives of health organizations have called for the immediate opening of a humanitarian corridor to carry out emergency medical evacuations from Gaza to hospitals in the east sector of Al-Quds. The health system in Gaza has been damaged by the Zionist army bombardments, and the inhabitants can only rely on a handful of hospitals operating at a low level and on the emergency reception facilities provided by NGOs. Health workers say that they are short of medical supplies because of the complex procedures for delivering aid imposed by the Israeli authorities and the looting carried out by the settlers. This is Radio Algeria International. Stay tuned.
Our talk